Hello, welcome. Happy Friday. I'll give just a couple more moments for a few more people to hop on. Right, awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Alertus Power Lunch, verifying your system functionality before students return to campus. My name is Sarah, and I'm a training specialist here at Alertus. I'm also joined by Brooke, another training specialist who will be leading the conversation today. But we all know that it is essential to perform a health check of your Alertus system, especially before students return to campus or you have any other big events going on. But during this session, we will cover some best practices for verifying the functionality of your Alertus system, ensuring that it's always ready to perform whenever you do need it most. And as always, this is an interactive session, so please feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat or also using the Q&A feature. And also, please be aware that this session is being recorded for training purposes. But without further introduction, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Brooke to get started.
All right, great. Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to share my screen. All right, so we are going to, of course, hop into the Alertus console today, and we are going to make sure that everything is working properly. Oh, also, I did update my release. my server for the newest release, which is coming next week. So get excited for that. So we will see that, some features in here for that. But yes, we want to make sure that your system is up and running before students come back to campus, making sure that you have tested it properly, understand all of the ways to maintain the system to make sure that things are functioning the way that they should, and how to verify, once again, in both the console and in the middleware that things are up to date. So there are many ways that you can activate the system, as we've covered in many power lunches. You can come in here and do an activation from the console. You can do a software panic button by right-clicking on your desktop alerts. But today I'm going to do a hardwired panic button press from the alert beacon behind me, because that is what my campus uses to send out alerts. So I want to test and make sure that this is working properly before students come back to campus, so my security team knows exactly what to do and that it will work properly. So I'm going to press my yellow panic button back here. I see on the alert beacon that it says panic button press detected. And now I'm going to start seeing, hopefully, all my stuff go off, which is great. It's working properly. I also have an active alert at the bottom of my console here, which will be able to be canceled. There goes my text-to-speech speaker. My desktop should be popping up soon, so I'll give that another moment.
Evacuate.
There we go.
Now affected alert to HQ. Please evacuate.
So I'm going to acknowledge that on my computer. We still hear everything else going on. So I'm going to come and cancel.
37 seconds of EDT. An evacuation order is now in effect and alert.
So now I've canceled that alert. All of these things will stop going off, but we do see that that is functioning properly. So everything has gone off, but there are reports that you can check and also make sure that everything went off if you're not like sitting in front of all your devices. But before I do that with a panic button press, I do want to reset that. So I'm going to come back here to my panic button and spin it to then allow it to be reset and can be pressed again in the future. So that activation went off. We saw that there was an active alert. I'm going to come down to reports and check out my alert history. So here, this most recent alert, we can see that this alert went off today at 11:33 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It sent off this evacuate preset. It targeted my alert beacons, my desktop, and my text-to-speech speaker. And then I also can click this and see who it went to. So it went to my test group. It went for 30 seconds. It was sent by a custom event trigger using the alert server. So I'm going to check out that in a minute just to make sure that everything is working properly with that custom event trigger, which is how you do panic buttons. I can also view the alert with what it looks like on my desktops. And then I can go into my 3 helpful reports as well. So the first one is device activations. This first one will give, or the top of the report will give the same information we saw when we opened up that message. But as we scroll down, we're able to see a chart that shows that everything did go off. I have 100%. And then there's also a graph If you are a keen-eyed observer, you will notice that this graph has been updated with the newest server release and is much more dynamic and clickable in here. So feel free to explore this when you update your server next week. And then down below, of course, I have that specific device detail information with the amount of seconds that it took to activate all of my devices, which I can then sort. So these are the times that it went off. The next report will show device acknowledgements. This will show if and when any of my alert beacons or desktop clients were acknowledged. I only acknowledged my desktop client by clicking that green button. I could acknowledge an alert beacon by pressing the two buttons on the front of the alert beacon at the same time, but I did not do that. So I'm going to see on this report that only my desktop was acknowledged, and then it was acknowledged at 38 seconds. And then lastly, the user recipient report will show if there are any users that were logged in with that same data as well. So those are the attached reports for all of the alert history. They also do exist over here on the side. And there are a few other reports that are really handy for just monitoring your system and making sure that everything is functioning properly. So the next one we're going to hop to is device status. This is going to show a live status of all of your devices. So you can see that these are the ones that are online. These are the ones that are offline. The ones in red have not checked in since the last restart, which for us was actually just yesterday. So these haven't checked in since then. But it also looks like there's some configuration issues here and hasn't checked in for 94 days. So if you see things in red that are not supposed to be offline, this is a good spot to check. And then you can go into the device itself, or you can go and physically visit that device to see if it's connected, see what's going on, make sure that all of your devices are working properly. There is a third status here as well that we don't see right now called inactive. Those are going to show up as yellow devices. That means they have checked in since the last restart, but have not checked in over 3 minutes. So if you see that status, that is what that means. And as you scroll over for your inactive or your online devices, you'll see a ton more information. You'll see that the offline devices will not show that information because they are offline and haven't been able to send any information since the last restart. So make sure that you, like I said, keep an eye on these offline devices and go check them out if they are supposed to be online. The next report we're going to take a look at are our membership reports. So we have our group memberships. This is checking and making sure that whatever group I'm targeting with my alerts, and for the one that I sent with my panic button, it was my test group. So I can come here and see that these were the devices that were in that group. All 4 of these devices went off. That looks good. I also can use this report up here at the top, view alert devices not assigned to any groups. So when I click on that, I'm able to see, oh, there are 3 unassigned alert devices. Maybe these should be in a specific group if I am using groups a lot when I send out my activations, and then let me assign those properly. Same is true for locations. If you are utilizing locations instead of groups, the same reports exist, but most of our customers utilize groups, so that is what you'll see. In addition, you'll see on this left-hand side with the update, the mobile memberships report has been removed because that is an obsolete report because we have migrated to AlertAware. So that is something that you'll have in your update as well. So the next one we'll pop to is system activity. So this is showing what's happening in your Alertus system. If you want to take a look just at your errors, you can highlight those and see what is going on with your system errors. You can also come in here and see who is logging into the system, who's sending alerts, who is configuring or editing the system. So like this one was an updated, a custom event trigger, and you can see what that specifically did. So you can just keep an eye on who or what types of actions are happening in your Alertus console. So those are some handy reports. We also will have the event dashboard. So with the event dashboard, because I selected my a panic button, you should see that coming in to the event dashboard. I can also sort by cap alerts, which are mostly my weather events, or those panic button presses, and be able to see that here. So we can see that this is the one that I did at 11:33 a.m. to my white alert beacon. It executed this specific custom event trigger and it activated this preset and then it sent that alert. So we can see all the processing details for what is going in, specifically when I press that panic button. We also want to take a look at that custom event trigger. So I can click on this number 22 right here to take me to it, or I can come down to configure system settings and go to custom event triggers and find the ID 22, which is this one right here. It's my emergency panic button on the training wall. And once again, you can see that it was last triggered at on the 1st of August at 11:33 a.m. So once again, more evidence that this is what's working. If I wanted to go in here and set up any of the different settings, I can make sure that it's going to the right preset, etc., and all of that. In addition, in custom event triggers, if you want to test that your panic buttons are working or your system is working, but you don't want all of the alerts to go off, there is a way to enable test mode. So if you enable this test mode, you'll see that this is now saying everything's in red and it's test mode enabled. So when I go press this button again, it is not going to send out any of the alerts. Nothing is going off. There is no active alert in the system. Nothing is happening here, but I can go to my event dashboard and I can see that it did log here. It just said that test mode was enabled. So if you just want to make sure that your custom event triggers are working, then you can do that here. It says it would have activated this preset, but it did not. But that is a way to test the system without having all of your alerts devices go off. But definitely check and make sure your devices are working at some point by executing it fully. So I'm once again going to reset that. And I also am going to go back to my custom event triggers page and disable test mode. So now my buttons are all working again. And make sure that that is functional. The next thing we're going to take a look at that is really handy for making sure your system is up to date and working as smoothly as possible are the global settings for desktop. So a lot of our customers use Alertus Desktop, and we like to highlight this device cleanup page a lot. This will automatically delete any inactive or offline devices that have been inactive for 30 days. But if you want to set that for longer and be 60 days or 90 days or whatever you want it to be, you can edit those settings here. And that just makes sure that you are keeping your devices totals up to date and you don't have any devices in there that aren't actually part of your system. So definitely utilize that as well. So next we're going to hop into middleware, which will bring us to this page and specifically to the Alertus middleware settings. When we go down to notification and monitoring, just to make sure that everything is working properly, you'll see that this will be able to set up any specific notifications when system or device problems are detected. So this top one is where you can put in any recipient email addresses to receive any of the reports below. There also is a new section here, once again, as part of the Summer 25 release, which Sarah will put a link to the webinar for next week for the customers about all of the new updates for the summer release. But this one is called Notify Contacts in Device Groups. So once you update your server, you will be able to utilize this different reporting functionality here, this feature. And this is saying that when a problem is detected for a device assigned to a group, send a monitoring email to any contact also assigned to the same group. So if I come in here now to groups and I see that in my test group, I am assigned as a contact and my contact up here has an email address. If I include that, if I turn on that middleware setting right here, notify contacts in device groups, when that is going off, if there is anything wrong in this test group, so if anything with these specific devices, these 4 devices go wrong, there are any errors there, then I will get an email. So I'm going to turn that on because I think that's a great feature. Then there are also other warning types here that you can turn on and off. This is another new one, devices with IP connectivity restored. So if you want to turn that on as well, then feel free to do that. And it will send anything here for these email addresses, as well as assurance monitoring. This is really helpful for people who want to send any errors to the Alertus Gateway. It goes right to our support team, and they'll reach out to proactively help you figure out what's going on with those devices and troubleshoot any issues. We also have the activation notifier. So this will send an email each time the Alertus system sends an alert. So it will be enabled here. Once again, it will go to any of the email addresses at the top. And we will see that it will wait 300 seconds after the alert is sent to then send the email. But this is customizable to be whatever you'd like. We also have the active system monitor. If you want to regularly monitor the system around any of these specific settings, then feel free to turn this on and set up however many seconds and minutes and notification specifics that you would want. It specifically detects alert beacons that have not checked in for an X amount of time, as you can see. So if you have a lot of alert beacons on your campus, then definitely utilize this feature. In addition, we have the daily digest report, which will send a daily snapshot if there are any errors. So if you are having any errors specifically around alert beacons, it will send that report. You also can enable it to send any day, every day, even when there are no errors. But if you deselect this, then you will only get it when there are errors. And you can see that if the setting and notify contacts and device groups are both enabled, contacts will not receive emails every day. So it would just be going once again to these people at the top. So a bunch of helpful reports here to make sure that you are monitoring your system correctly. I'll save these settings because I did update them. And then the next thing we're going to pop to now is server maintenance. So underneath server maintenance, you will see Alertus disk cleanup job as well as data cleanup job. So this is going to be a scheduled utility that frees up the disk space by deleting either old logs and system backups. So once this is enabled, you can see that it will execute every day at 4 a.m. and it will keep this many logs or system backups. So you can edit these settings exactly as you want. There also is a really handy report on the homepage here. So if you come here and manage your homepage, go to reports, I believe it is maybe admin. Yes, it's system resources right here. So once I have that turned on, I'm able to see, here we go, system resources down here at the bottom. I can see how much memory and how much space and disk space I have, as well as network and system. So there's a lot of information here that is helpful as well. And then in middleware, you can help keep those disk and data cleanups as up to date as possible. And then underneath data cleanup, you can turn on or off deleting old alerts, deleting old events, or deleting system activity, and it will retain for a certain amount of days. So once again, feel free to set up these settings as customized as you would like to make sure that your server is running at its most optimized functionality. So we did cover a whole bunch here. You can see that there is a lot to keep an eye on with your system, but hopefully these resources will help you. And we recommend setting up at least a monthly test. So we have a scheduled alert here that goes out on the first Monday of every month. It specifically is a silent test, so it won't actually activate anything loudly, but you will be able to see that in the device status report. And we do also have a recording around how to set that up. So if you go to the customer portal, you can log in and then head up to the training tab at the top and go to our previous Power Lunch videos. If you scroll down, you will see one that is called mastering the 3 levels of testing, silent test, audible test part 1, etc. So if you want to watch part 1 and or part 2, this will go into how to test the system more fully. So recommend using this system or these videos to test the system, as well as utilizing all of the reports that we covered today, just to double check that everything is running smoothly. If you do need any help with making sure your system is running, feel free to submit a tech ticket. We do assurance reviews for you that will go through the system and take an even deeper dive from your assurance monitoring. So if that is something you are interested in, do let us or your account manager know, or you can submit a ticket as well for that. But yes, I believe that's everything. So I'm going to throw it back to Sarah. And we'll see. I know that she has some resources to share as well as time for some questions.
Awesome. So yes, thank you, Brooke. And like Brooke mentioned, we do have the summer 2025 release coming very soon. So we have a webinar on August 6th, which is, I believe, next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time to go through all of the new features and enhancements that are coming out with this update. And I did just put a link into the chat for everyone with the link to register for that webinar. So hopefully we'll see you there. I think it'll definitely be helpful to get a rundown on all of those new features. And then I will also share another link in the chat. We have an additional user guide that goes over the notification and monitoring page in the middleware settings. So it goes in more detail in how to edit all of those spaces, just like what Brooke was showing you today. And then we did get a question in the chat. I see it says, how can I remove devices that have not checked in for over 6 months?
Awesome. So let me share my screen again. So if they are desktops, you can use that auto cleanup feature, like I showed before. So this says that at 3 a.m. tomorrow, it will remove the devices if you turn that on. If they are not, if they're not desktops, then you would have to manually go and delete those devices. So you can come here and see what devices you have here, and you can get a quick snapshot of if they are online or offline. So for example, this one you can see hasn't checked in since April. Maybe I want to delete this. So I would come down here and or I would come back to the home page here and I would press this delete button, which would then delete it from the system. You also, if you are going through the device status report, you can click on it this way, which will take you here to once again show you what last time it checked in. And then if you come down to return, oops, it does take you directly back to the device status page. So you will have to go to configure system, alert devices, and then you can use the delete button next to each of those alerts, each of these devices here to manually delete those.
And we can also mention there is a tab under the configure system section called device batch updater. So that could be an option if you do have a lot of devices that haven't checked in for over 6 months and you don't want to have to go in and find them and delete them individually. You can use the device batch updater, and then there's filters at the top of that left-hand side. So you can use a filter and you can set it by the inactive since or the online status. So you could look for, say, anything that's been inactive for 6 months or more, and then it'll show up with just those devices there, and you can select all of them and then delete them from here. So that's a way you can do it a little bit more efficiently if you don't want to have to search for all of them individually.
Yes, great. Thank you, Sarah. So let me, actually, we don't have any inactive because they're, so these are, if I wanted to search for that, I could just select it if I had multiple and then come down and click this delete devices section. Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a great question as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely stay on the line. If there are any other questions, please feel free to type them in. And otherwise, we do appreciate everyone joining us today. So I hope you all have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend.